We lead the world when it comes to helping stem the AIDS pandemic, yet we are one of only a dozen countries that still bar people from HIV from entering our own country. If we want to be the global leader in combating HIV/AIDS, we need to act like it. And that's why on Monday, my administration will publish a final rule that eliminates the travel ban, effective just after the new year. Congress and President Bush. You know, over the past 19 years, this legislation has evolved from an emergency response into a comprehensive national program for the care and support of Americans living with HIV/AIDS. It helps communities that are most severely affected by this epidemic and often least served by our healthcare system, including minority communities, the LGBT community, rural communities, and the homeless. It's 1.1 million people living with HIV/AIDS in the United States, and more than 56,000 new infections occur every single year. Some communities still experience unacceptably high rates of infection. Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases. Nearly half of all new cases now occur in the South, and a staggering 7% of Washington, D.C.'s residents between the ages of 40 and 49 live with HIV/AIDS.
Explain to me, what is the DL?
The DL brother is a brother that is homosexual behind curtains.
People looking at it, it's like, oh, I think he's straight, he's heterosexual, he talks to women, but like secretly he really is interested in men, but he just don't want people to know.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
First HIV patient in the state of Idaho convicted of intentionally spreading the deadly virus. More than a decade later now, he is back behind bars for allegedly offending again.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
The rooftop burglars responsible for nearly 40 break-ins in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Only Eyewitness News cameras were rolling. Now it turns out the two have been before cameras before. They're gay porn stars.
I wouldn't have never
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
So if you had 10 black men, I know I'm just talking about like from here, all over the country, of those 10, how many of them would you say are gay, bisexual, or homosexual?
Maybe like 2. Out of 10, I believe 6. Total of 3?
I say 2. 3 or 4. At least 4 to 6. 5.
3. 5 of them on the DL. So about 6. Out of 10. I say at least 6 or 7 out of 10. Yeah. 6 or 7 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
Is sex with a horse? We're going to hear now from the horse's owner.
AJ Ross has the details.
Here inside this stable is where Barbara Kenley says she caught a man raping her horse, Sugar.
She's great. And I was devastated.
Barbara Kenley says her heart sank when she discovered what happened.
It really hurts me when I think about it. I gotta keep from crying.
On Monday night, Kenley says she caught this man, 50-year-old Rod Alvarine, with a hidden camera having sex with Sugar.
But until I asked...
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases. Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
A new epidemic that is sweeping across AIDS-ravaged South Africa. It's an epidemic of drug abuse, and the cheap and powerful drug of choice is the very medicine meant to keep AIDS patients alive. In many cases, the United States has paid for these AIDS treatments, but now dealers and addicts are fueling an underground drug market. Jim Shuto reports from Durban, South Africa.
The drug they're smoking is supposed to save lives. Instead, as we witnessed up,
gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
Also tonight, back here at home, a jilted lover is now under arrest, accused of abducting and eventually killing his ex-girlfriend, all because he claims she gave him a deadly disease. Local 10's Janine Stanwood is live for us where the murder victim was abducted. Lori, it was in this parking lot, actually, where that 23-year-old victim was abducted. And we have to warn you that what happened after that, the details leading up to her murder are tough to hear. And the judge recounted them in court today.
Once she was out, once you were out of the car, they asked you, what happened? Why is she bleeding? Allegedly, you replied, I shot the because she gave me HIV.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases. Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
First of all, right, if he's a newcomer, right, I want him to suck my ass with jelly. They call it toss the salad. That's the slang word, toss the salad. It means sucking my ass, right? With jelly or without jelly. Some people use syrup. I prefer guys with jelly, right? I will reach my clock.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
Dogs are being removed. What agents found him doing in the backyard with the dog will haunt them forever. Mr. Cheney, can you talk to us? Were you having sex with your dog this morning? No. Investigators say they saw you doing that. You don't have anything to say about that? He's accused of not registering as a sex offender, something he had no problem talking about.
I paid it in the house. I told him I paid it in the car in the house. No, you go check on the cars in the car on my face. Then I registered.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
As that trial continues, another one reaches its conclusion today in Regina. Travis Smith will be sentenced today. The former CFL player was convicted of aggravated sexual assault for knowingly exposing 2 women to HIV. The CBC's Jeff Leo has more.
As Travis Smith awaits his sentence, there are 2 things beyond doubt. 1, he's been found guilty of aggravated sexual assault for having unprotected sex with 2 women, exposing them to the virus that causes AIDS. And 2, he'll be spending at least 2 years in prison. This woman was in the courtroom when Smith was sentenced. She can't be identified because of a court-ordered publication ban.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
To my home while all my family was there. There were 7. They came to loot my shop and tied me up. Then they took my wife and daughter and raped them. Everything happened right in front of my children. I was very angry and feared I'd get AIDS, so I kicked my wife out of the house.
Gay men make up 2 or 3% of the population, but more than half of all new cases. African Americans make up roughly half of all new cases.
Alexandra Township, north of Johannesburg, is a densely populated melting pot of some of South Africa's worst social ills. Poverty, unemployment, HIV, AIDS and crime. It is here where we found evidence to support a new study done on the prevalence of rape in South Africa. A survey conducted by the government-funded Medical Research Council finds that 1 in 4 South African men have raped at least 1 woman in their lifetime, and that majority of them